A lot of movies came out in 2023. Was I excited for a lot of them? Not really. So I really didn't watch that many 2023 releases, but today we're going to be ranking those that I saw. It was a decently big year for the box office. There were 2 films that grossed over $1 billion. I only saw one of them, and the other one was the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I haven't seen that one yet. I think it's just gonna irritate me. I watched 129 movies in 2023, not including rewatches or anything. But out of movies that were released in 2023, I only watched 24. There was quite a bit that I didn't get around to watching. I didn't see Oppenheimer. I never got around to watching Beau is Afraid. I did not see Infinity Pool. And I didn't see Thanksgiving either because I had COVID when it was in theaters. So yeah, those movies aren't gonna be in this list, sorry. So yeah, 24 movies. This is gonna be a pretty quick video probably. So I'm gonna be ranking them worst to best. Please ignore the red splotchiness on my neck. I don't know why that happens to me. Okay, coming in at 2024. Coming in at 24, the worst movie that I watched that came out in 2023 was Elevator Game. There is a good chance that you haven't heard of this one. It came out on Shudder. It's supposed to be based on the online like ritual thing called The Elevator Game. You're supposed to go in an elevator and like push buttons in a certain order and follow these rules, and then it's supposed to like take you to hell or something. But this was ass. It was really bad. This was some of the most horrible acting and writing I've seen in a really long time. It was like someone watched iCarly for the first time and was like, this is great, and I think that this is how teenagers are, and then made a horror movie out of that. God, of course there's a fucking garbage truck outside right now. Elevator Game gets 1 star. The only reason I gave it a full star and not a half a star was because there was one scene that like looked kind of pretty and I thought it was kind of cool. All right, moving on to number 2023. So I keep saying 2020. Hopefully after we get past these ones, I'll stop messing up. Okay, number 23. This one got 2 stars from me. It's Trap House. You probably definitely haven't heard of this one. It's a very Saw-inspired movie, and it's about a trap house. You know, that kind. But it's also a trap house, meaning it's full of traps. Booby traps. And I would describe it as like a mix of Saw, The Collector, and Home Alone. Was it a good movie? No. But I get what they were trying to do, and I appreciate that they based their movie on a pun. I think that's pretty baller. And I did kind of enjoy watching it. All right, moving on up, number 2020. All right, moving on up, number 22 with 2.5 stars, Five Nights at Freddy's. Boo! They really botched this one. This could have been such a fun movie, but it was really boring. I'm not super caught up in all the Five Nights at Freddy's lore. I don't know like the story and stuff, so maybe that's why it was boring to me, but I felt like they could have added a little more to do with the animatronics instead of just the backstory and like focusing on that the whole time and like repeating a bunch of stuff that isn't interesting. The kills were super lame and weak too. Like you don't see anything happen, which I get. It's, you know, based on a game that is mostly popular with children, but still they're, you know, you're advertising it as a horror movie. They definitely could have done more with that. I don't know. It was a big flop. It gets a 2.5 because I liked the character design. I thought that the animatronics looked just like they do in the video game, which I really, really appreciate. I don't have a ton of super low rated movies. We're already getting into the 3 stars. So at 21 with 3 stars, we've got The Nun 2. Listen, this movie doesn't deserve 3 stars. I had a decent time watching it though. I liked it more than the first one. I didn't love the first Nun movie. I just personally thought that this one was a lot more interesting and more stuff happened. I do remember though, about halfway through the movie, I think I like very slyly checked the time on my phone and I was like, fuck, I think I have like an hour left of this movie still. And I felt like I was gonna fall asleep. I was getting really bored. I was like, how is there this much of this movie left? But then shortly after that, it actually picked up and the time went by fast. It was a fun ride from then on. I had fun with it. I thought that no spoilers, but the monster. Thought the design was really fun. All right, I've got a lot more 3 stars coming up. So with 3 stars again at number 20, just slightly better than The Nun 2, Haunted Mansion. I actually liked this one. I thought it was very entertaining to watch. I thought it was cute. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel going into it because I really like the original Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion. I loved it as a kid, and I was just kind of scared that this one was going to be too corny, too just trying to be funny and not being funny. And I'm not saying that this movie was hilarious, because it's not by any means, but it gave me a good chuckle here and there. I actually liked the characters. A lot of people did not, but I did. The product placement in this movie, though, is fucking insane. Honestly, the biggest downfall for this movie, for me, is the fact that they very repeatedly talk about name brands in a very obviously like advertising kind of way, but I tried to ignore it. All right, number 19 with 3 stars is The Boogeyman. Now, The Boogeyman was not a good movie. There was really nothing special about it at all. It was actually very subpar. It was very cliche. It was just structured like a typical horror movie, but I still thought it was an enjoyable movie. It was still something that I definitely had fun watching. Really, the movie's saving grace is Sophie Thatcher. Her performance in this movie really saved it from being a bad movie. Genuinely. Okay, moving on to number 18, also with 3 stars, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I did not love this as much as other people did. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fun. I really, really liked the art style, the animation style. It was very neat. It was very comic booky. I really liked the characters. I did actually, as much as it was cringe, I did appreciate that they had the turtles and their friend, I don't remember her name, acting like teenagers would. It was like, I was sitting there and I was like, this is kind of cringe, but you know, it's in an endearing way because it was real, you know, it really did feel like a bunch of young teenagers just goofing around. But I just got kind of bored. I don't know. I guess this just wasn't for me. Also, the constant pop culture references in this movie really did not work for me. Literally, like almost every other thing that they said was a reference to something in pop culture. And this is something I've noticed a lot, I guess probably in the last like 10 years. I feel like before that, when you watch a kid's movie, it wasn't really like that. You'd get, you know, pop culture references here and there maybe, but it was never like this. And I feel like this is happening a lot more recently. And I don't know why, and I don't like it. All right, number 17, also 3 stars, A Haunting in Venice. This was a very okay movie. There wasn't really any complaints I had about it besides the fact that it just wasn't anything special. I did like the concept. I did like the whole seance thing and like, is it real, is it not? But there was really nothing special about it. I thought it looked really pretty. It's also not as spooky as I was anticipating, which is fine. I guess that was my own fault. It's not like it was advertised as horror or anything. All right, number 16, we've got Insidious: The Red Door. I feel like I enjoyed this installment of Insidious more than most other people did. I thought it was fine. I liked the storyline. Concept was a lot different than what we've gotten before in Insidious movies, but it still felt like an Insidious movie to me, so that was a bonus for sure. All the visuals I liked a lot, but honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about this movie, so I guess, yeah, it just wasn't that memorable. I do remember, though, Dalton's roommate. The writing for her was a little ridiculous. It was like textbook quirky girl, I'm different, I'm an outcast, you know, I'm weird, I like weird things, and I like you because you're weird. Like, I like characters like that when they're not extremely stereotypical and corny. And this one was. I don't know, I still kind of liked her though. All right, moving on to number 15, still with 3 stars, it's VHS 85. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I actually liked this one more than the previous 2 installments, the 90s ones. I don't think there were any segments in this one that I disliked, which is very rare for me in the VHS series. There's usually always one that I don't vibe with. It just doesn't work for me. And this one, I think all of them were really satisfying. And I do love things that are 80s or 80s inspired. All right, this one is my last 3-star rating. This is number 14. It's Knock at the Cabin. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with this one. I didn't really know what I was expecting going into it. I didn't really know how they were gonna make that concept into an entire movie, but they did, and they did a decent job. I don't know, not enough happened. It just wasn't super interesting to me. I would have loved a little bit more ambiguity. I'm not gonna spoil it and tell you, what happens, but it felt like, to me, it was pretty obvious what was true. It's like, is this thing happening or is it not happening? And then you get to see the truth, and then that's it. And I was like, okay, I kind of already knew that. I knew that a long time ago. And then this is the payoff. It wasn't great. It was a good movie. I think all of the performances were really good. I think I might have cried a little bit, honestly. All right, number 13. This one's got 3.5 stars from me. It's Cobweb. Now, Cobweb is definitely a more family-friendly horror movie. This is a good horror movie to show older kids, preteens, whatever. It's not overly gruesome. It's a nice, fun, easy to understand story. And it does take place during Halloween, so this is also a great fall Halloween watch. Lizzy Caplan really knows how to be creepy and unsettling and weird. I will say the reveal in this movie, visually, what the reveal looks like, I'm trying so hard to not spoil it, I think was not good. Once you see that, you're like, oh, this looks like it was made for kids in a really bad way. But other than that, I thought that this was a very enjoyable, actually pretty creepy movie. All right, continuing with our 3.5 stars, at number 12 is Megan. Megan was fun. I don't know how many times I'm gonna just say, this movie was fun. I enjoyed this movie. I had fun watching this movie. Sorry, I guess that's just all I have to say about a lot of these. But it's for sure true for Megan. Megan was a very fun movie. You can also tell that it's a Blumhouse movie, which might be a negative thing to some and a positive thing to others. To me, it's very neutral. To me, that means it's probably not going to be a very good movie, but I'm most likely gonna have a good time. I wasn't really shocked or surprised by anything that happened in this movie. It was all just like, yeah, I expected this. I think Megan could have gotten way gnarlier. And I mean, she did, but they just didn't show us a lot, which I thought was a big bummer. But I liked it. All right, at number 11 with 3.5 stars is John Wick Chapter 4. So I'm not like a huge John Wick fanatic or anything. I do think that Keanu Reeves is a very handsome man, and the movies are a lot of fun to watch. Well, I mean, I don't know. I like the first one a lot, and then I think the second and third one were pretty boring. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, don't really remember anything about either of them. But the fourth, and I think this is the last one, was a whole lot of fun. This was a real fun movie. All of these movies are fun, I guess. What can I say? I like to have fun. I'm really not a big action movie person. It's not really my thing. I think they can get really boring, which is crazy because these are movies where shit is constantly happening. People are constantly fighting and murdering each other, and like things are blowing up and exploding and a bunch of other crazy shit. But it's too repetitive for me and just not into it. Which is, I think, why I didn't love John Wick Chapter 2 and 3. But this one I felt like had a lot more to it. It had a lot of heart. And I think it was a really good way to end the franchise. And I did cry. Okay, next up at number 10 with 3.5 stars is Renfield. I really liked Renfield. You'd think it would be a little higher on this list based on the way that I'm saying I liked it so much, but it definitely had plenty of flaws. I really love a good horror comedy. It's one of my favorite genres. I mean, horror and comedy, I think, are my two favorite genres, so it just makes sense. But this was great. They did a really good job. I thought that Nicolas Cage as Dracula was really weird and funny. It was such a unique and different story. And the comedy, most of it actually really hit for me. I was kind of scared that the jokes were gonna be bad. I don't even remember what the joke was, but they were arguing about ska and their little meeting, and I thought it was really funny. I didn't love the whole Renfield falls in love with police officer Aquafina storyline. I thought that was kind of weird, but the rest of the movie was redeeming enough to me. Next up at number 9 with 3.5 stars is Evil Dead Rise. I did do a review on Evil Dead Rise. I'll put a link in the video, so you should definitely go watch that if you haven't yet. I like this movie. I had, plenty of complaints, but I really liked the characters. I thought they were very different than what we usually see in movies. They were a lot more realistic of a depiction of people like this, like alternative people. And I thought that all the kills and all the gore was really fun. I do think they could have pushed it further, but I thought it was really great. Some of the visuals were fantastic. All right, next up at number 8 with 3.5 stars is Saw X. Now, I saw an overwhelming amount of people called this one the best Saw movie in the franchise, which I don't agree with, but I did love it. It was so cool to get a Saw movie where we saw so much humanity in John Kramer. You really see him as like a person with feelings and emotions and struggles, and you kind of get a little empathy for the guy. We can see him through a different lens, and it's not done in a way that's trying to make him seem like a good guy, because he's not, obviously, but he is the main antagonist in 10 movies. And I think it was really important to get to see that side of him, you know, a very vulnerable side. And getting to see more of that relationship with him and Amanda was really, I almost want to say beautiful. But speaking of Amanda, who the fuck did her hair like that? Who thought that making her hair look like a fucking Lego piece stuck to her fucking head would make her look younger? Because this is, you know, filmed many years after it's supposed to take place. So her and Tobin Bell, who plays John Kramer, are very obviously older. That had to have been a we're trying to make her look younger choice, because why else would they do that? It's weird because it doesn't make her look younger. She's also never had that kind of haircut. If they would have given her a haircut that was more similar to the one that she had in Saw 2 or Saw 3, gave it a little bit of like life, made it a little, you know, a little spiky, it would have been so much better. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, the traps in this movie were great too. They were real gruesome and pretty hard to watch. All right, coming in at number 7, we are into the 4-star ratings. This might be kind of a shock that I'm putting some of these over Saw X, especially this one, Cocaine Bear. Yeah, I gave Cocaine Bear 4 stars. It is above Saw X. Okay, I'm reflecting. Currently, right now, I am reflecting. I think maybe Saw X deserves 4 stars, and I think actually maybe it should go up 2 notches in this ranking. And so it's too late now, but keep that in mind, I guess. But yeah, Cocaine Bear. I was very pleasantly surprised by this one. I didn't have any negative expectations for sure, but I didn't really have any expectations at all. It was for sure more comedy than horror. Is it even classified as a horror movie? Okay, Letterboxd does not consider this a horror movie. Which makes sense. I, for some reason, just thought that it technically was, but it's not. It is comedy for sure, and a thriller. It's a thriller. Heavy on the comedy though. It is mostly, I would probably just call it a dark comedy, but it really nails that. It is so good with the comedy and so consistent with the comedy while also being like kind of scary and stressful and gross. I thought that they really nailed the comedy in this one. It was just such an enjoyable experience. All right, next up at number 4. Again, remember that I said maybe Saw X should go above the next 2. So maybe Saw X should go above this one. You know, changing my mind a little bit. So keep that in mind. But I think this is still gonna be maybe surprising that it's up this high. Number 6 with 4 stars is Wonka. I actually really liked Wonka. When I first saw the previews for this movie, I thought it was ridiculous in a bad way. I thought it looked really bad. The way that Timothée Chalamet was portrayed as Willy Wonka was ridiculous. I was hearing an accent sometimes and then like a different accent other times, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I don't really understand the characterization that they're going for this, but they kind of proved me wrong, I guess. It worked. I was cringing throughout the first like 10 to 15 minutes of this movie because of Timothée Chalamet's portrayal of this character. It was very head tilting, but I got used to it and it actually became very endearing in a weird way. And I was not expecting that at all. I actually thought it was really cool to see a Willy Wonka story where Willy Wonka is actually like a cool and kind person. Because in, you know, the first movie, Gene Wilder, he's kind of just, he doesn't really care what's happening to the kids. And then the Depp version is he's weird, he's really weird, and also kind of an asshole. So it was actually really nice seeing a totally different interpretation of the character. The story was cute and funny, and just like the whole concept of like a Willy Wonka origin story kind of. It was fun. I definitely think it was a movie that justifies being made. All right, next up at number 5, we're in my top 5 movies of 2023. This one is a 4-star, and it is Saltburn. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was extremely well done. I don't think it was like super deep or anything. I mean, you know, I have thoughts about it for sure, and I'm not going to get into that, but even without any kind of like underlying, you know, meaning or message of the movie, just very surface level, it was a very good movie. It also wasn't nearly as sexual as I was anticipating going into it because of the way that people were talking about it. I mean, it was actually, the whole movie was very sexual in nature, but there wasn't as much on-screen stuff as I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more, I don't know, disturbing. It wasn't that bad. I mean, the one scene, obviously, if you've seen the movie, I'm sure you already know which one I'm talking about. I think it was the last erotic scene of the movie. That one. It wasn't disturbing in like a, ooh, I feel gross kind of way. I don't know, maybe it was to most people. All right, number 4 on my list with 4 stars is Scream 6. I loved Scream 6. I thought it was a really strong continuation of the franchise. Melissa Barrera's performance in this movie was miles better than it was in the previous one. I really didn't love her acting in that one, but for this one she really stepped it up. I like actually enjoyed her in this movie. I actually did like the reveal too. A lot of people had complaints about that, but I thought it was good. It actually like did tie in with the rest of the movies, not like Scream 3 where, you know, that happens and it's like, wait, huh? This is what? Who are you? The beginning of this movie also was so good. So good. And I'm not going to say why because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but I loved the beginning of this movie. I think that after the first Scream, this is my second favorite opening to a Scream movie. I also love that this is the first Scream movie to actually take place during Halloween. And they're in New York, so it's just a completely different environment. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good change of pace without totally being like disrespectful to the original movies. All right, next up, this is my number 3. I gave it 4 stars. I am so surprised that this movie is number 3 on my list of movies from the year. Before seeing this movie, I definitely wouldn't have expected that this would be so high on my list. But that is Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Now listen, I am not a D&D player. I have never played D&D in my life, actually, which is kind of disappointing, actually. I've always been kind of interested in it, but I've never really had the opportunity. But I went into this movie not really knowing how accurate it was going to be, if it was like actually a good portrayal of what a game is like. But according to a lot of people, they did a good job on that. Aside from accuracy, I loved this movie. It was so charming and fun. I thought it was funny. I thought it was endearing. I did not get bored a single time throughout the entire thing. I was not bored. It was so good. This is a movie that I could rewatch a million times. I am a horror fanatic, but the horror just wasn't bringing it this year. So 3 of my top 5 movies are non-horror. This next one is horror. My number 1 is not. At number 2 with 4.5 stars, we've got Talk to Me. I thought this movie was so close to being perfect. I did have complaints, but there was so much that was just absolutely amazing about this movie. This movie made me feel something that I don't get to feel very often when watching movies. I also did a review for Talk to Me. If you want to go check that out, I'll also leave a link in the video. I talk about it a lot more in depth. It's spoiler free, I think. I say it in the video. I'm pretty sure it's spoiler free. But yeah, this one did something for me that I haven't felt from a horror movie in a long time. This is my number 1 horror movie of the year, for sure. No contest. And I know it's weird that I'm not giving it a 5 stars, but I have my reasons, and you can see it in my review. Okay, we're finally at number 1, 4.5 stars. My number 1 movie of 2023 is Barbie. No movies from 2023 got a 5-star rating from me. A little disappointing. But I mean, there were some strong contenders, so whatever. I'm just crossing my fingers for this year. hoping that I get a couple 5 stars. I loved Barbie. This movie is very dear to my heart, and I know this movie is very basic feminism, you know, a lot of stuff that women already know. We already think about this stuff on a daily basis. It's not like eye-opening, but I feel like that's kind of the point. It's just a movie that kind of showcases that. And yeah, obviously I teared up a little. I actually didn't cry as much as I thought I was going to. I think it's just because I think about this stuff often enough already, to where seeing it wasn't like a, oh my god, so true, because like, it's like, you know, it's kind of always in the back of my mind. It was very touching. I thought it was a really good baseline, basic representation of what it's like to be a woman, what that experience is like for the majority of women. Greta Gerwig was for sure the right choice for director for this movie. Also, the set design in this movie killed it. A lot of the time with more recent like fantasy-like movies, I'm very underwhelmed by set design. I either think that it's like too much CGI or there's just not enough period. There's like not enough going on aesthetically. Barbie definitely nailed the aesthetic and like making everything look like plastic, look like a dollhouse. Like it was very accurate, it was very fun, and they nailed the comedy in it too. A lot of the jokes were really fucking funny. The beach off thing was really good. Honestly, any joke that had to do with beach really got me for some reason. But anyway, that is my ranking of all of the 2023 releases that I watched. That was a lot less brief than I was anticipating. I kind of thought that I would not really say much about the movies and just kind of get through the list, but that didn't happen. I couldn't help myself. So hopefully I'm able to cut this down to a decent length. But yeah, thank you for tuning into this video. If you liked this video, it would be so cool and nice if you left a like. If you have any opinions on my rankings, go ahead and let me know. If you disagree with me or if you agree with a lot of what I said, just let me know. I want to know. And if you want, you can even put your own ranking in the comments. And if you liked this video, you could subscribe. And I know in my last video, I said I was going to be uploading more frequently, and then I went dark for 6 months. So for the 12 people that are subscribed to me and who all subscribed to me after I released my Talk to Me review, thank you so much. I'm picking it back up again. I'm going to be posting more. I have a couple things I want to do. Anyway, sorry, I don't know how to end this video. Bye!